Hi everybody, Andrew Cuneo here. It's day one of the release of Phyrexia All Will Be One on Arena. And I'm ready to try some new decks in Standard. So this is a Proliferate deck that I wanted to test this interaction between Bloated Contaminator, which is a new card for 4 Trample, Toxic 1. When it deals damage, Proliferate, with Invigorating Hot Springs, which is an already existing card that hasn't really seen any play in Constructed, but it is potentially powerful. Certainly this interaction where if you have the Hot Springs in play and you get to play a Bloated Contaminator, put a counter on it to give it haste, and then connect and proliferate again, that's going to get out of control pretty quickly. So that's sort of the impetus behind this whole deck. And then I've filled it out with other cards to proliferate and payoffs for proliferating. So I've got this new 1-drop that it's like Experiment 1 if you've been playing for a while. It gets oil counters, and it's the size of the number of oil counters it has, and it grows as you play bigger creatures. I guess it's kind of like Pelt Collector, too. That might be a more relevant recent comparison. So this is it's not the greatest card in the world, but it is pretty powerful, and you can proliferate onto it. 4 Drown in Ichors, which I think as a removal spell is not one of the better options at 2 mana in black, but it has proliferate, so I wanted to try it in this deck. I think certainly if you're killing something and getting the value off of the proliferate, like say you're getting 2 counters, that's an incredible deal. The problem with it is its sorcery speed, and it doesn't kill things like Sheoldred because it's only -4/-4. But if this is a removal spell that kills most of the things you want to kill in the format, I think it is pretty good in this deck. Armored Scrapgorger. So this is kind of a mana dork that eventually grows into a 3/3 once you get 3 oil counters on it. It's got a little bit of incidental graveyard hate, which is pretty nice. The proliferating isn't that great with it because once you get to the 3 oil counters, going beyond 3 doesn't do anything for you. But still, it's definitely a solid card. I think a lot of if you're a green deck and you want a 2 mana creature, I think this is probably the best one in Standard now. Cankerbloom, a little bit of artifact/enchantment hate, and the ability to sack it to proliferate. I don't know that this deck is so good at proliferating or getting paid for proliferating that you're really going to want to sack a 2 mana permanent to do it. But you can do it at instant speed, so if it means your creature's winning a combat or surviving the removal spell, that could be worthwhile. It's nice to have the option. And also, I think you just want a bunch of 2 mana plays, so that's fine. Quirion Beastcaller, this is an existing card that, it's just a counters-themed creature. So that's going to be pretty nice in my proliferate-themed deck. Then I've got the Contaminators and the Hot Springs, like I mentioned. I've got this guy, Migloz Maze Crusher, which is a new card. 3 mana 4/4 that starts with 5 oil counters, and you can spend mana plus oil counters to get some evasion or grow or destroy an artifact/enchantment. This card does not look that good to me, but I have heard people say good things about it, so I wanted to try it. For Halana and Alena's, I'd kind of forgotten this card was still legal. It's certainly, a very good source of counters, also a very good source of haste. So it has a similar interaction with the Bloated Contaminator that the Hot Springs does. Then I've got some new Planeswalkers. This Lukka Planeswalker, which doesn't look insane to me, but if you're getting to do the -4 ability and kill 2 or 3 things that your opponent has because you're sacking a Bloated Contaminator that you grew to, say, 6/6 or something like that, and if you're getting to divide 6 damage between their creatures and or planeswalkers, so you might even potentially beginning to sweep the board. I wanted to give it a try. I don't have super high hopes for this one, but maybe it'll surprise me. And then this is another one that I don't have super high hopes for, but I wanted to try it just because of the 0 proliferate ability. I think that the -2 ability where you can turn people's creatures into treasures, that's obviously going to be good in some spots. The -9 ability seems pretty useless to me. One thing that I've noticed when trying to build decks with this set is the things that I was most excited to try are the proliferate themes. And there's actually just not that many good ways to proliferate in the set. So I think I identified the ones in black, like in the Jund colors, that I thought were playable at all, and I've included them all in my deck. There are some decent ones in blue as well, but I didn't want to be a 4-color deck. Looking at the sideboard, I've got a bunch of existing cards that you would expect to see in a sideboard. And then I've got this one new addition, Tyvar's Stand, which is, you know, it's a creature protection spell, but it also acts as a pump spell. So that's potentially going to be really good. I think this deck would have really liked being able to play Snakeskin Veil, but it's no longer legal in Standard. I didn't spend a ton of time thinking about the sideboard. It's mostly just removal options, and I'm going to see how the main deck functions, and then if it's performing well, I'll try to tune the sideboard some more. All right, I don't have a proactive 2-mana play, but I do have this Drown in Ichor. One of the things that's awkward about having your 2-mana removal be a sorcery is that if you pass with the 2-mana up, obviously you're going to have to decide on turn 3 between playing your removal spell or developing your board, whereas if it was an instant, you know, you could just play it at the end of their turn 3. And the opponent has not played anything for me to kill, so I'm probably going to have that same decision to face. I just talked about, they have a lot of red-white. I guess I'm going to play Migloz. Migloz! All right, I was a little worried they were some sort of reanimation deck. Because I think that like being red-white like this is probably what you would do if you wanted to be a reanimation deck. Yeah, it looks like they're a reanimation deck with Scrapyard Mutt in their deck. So it's kind of a shocking attack. I think I don't want to block, because I think I want to play Halana and Alena and be able to target something with it. Hopefully they don't have a braid. Because if I get my Migloz up to, no, they do have a braid. I was going to say, if I get my Migloz up to 8/8 and get to use it with Lukka, that's going to be a big game. Sadly, that is not what happened. Yeah, they're a reanimation deck. Can I afford to play this? I don't think so. This is a weird inclusion in a reanimation deck. I wonder why they decided to put that in their deck. Sad that I've got 2 Planeswalkers I can play and they both really don't do anything. I guess I could have Vraska to kill that and then I would have gone to 1. What do I want to do in sideboarding? These Drown in Ichors didn't really seem all that hot against them. I didn't put any unlicensed hearses in my deck, which is probably a mistake. I think I'm just going to board in some Duresses and I'm going to have a cut down in my deck. I Could have a Braid in my deck. Maybe a Braid is worth it. In case they have Portal to Phyrexia. I do have Cankerbloom and Migloz to deal with that. Let's just go with it like this. The other thing that I do have that is good against reanimation is I do have these Armored Scrapgorgers in my deck, which is pretty nice. Just have a little bit of graveyard hate. Almost for free. I feel like they might have a Braid. And they saved it in case I played Halana and Alena. I was definitely going to put a counter on the Armored Scrapgorger. If they'd just waited, they would have gotten the counter for free. Is this haste until end of turn? No, it's just haste. So I can Scrapgorger the Titan of Industry at the end of their turn. It's a pretty ambitious farmhand. I've seen more ambitious, though. Get rid of this Titan of Industry. Spell would have been nice there. Wouldn't say it was necessary, though. I'm going to hang back with the Scrapgorger to go after the graveyard. So I got Titan of Industry out of their graveyard. Yeah, I'm definitely wishing I had a hearse or two in my sideboard. Probably I have too many removal spells. And I could have had one or two hearses. Yeah, this is a mulligan. This is not exciting, but playable at least. Opponent mulled to 5, so my hand doesn't have to be that good to compete. They also, they started with 2 lands that both don't produce white. That is not ideal in their Invoke Justice deck. They had had enough. All right, do I want to keep this? If I draw a second land and it's an untapped land, which is all but Ziatora's Proving Grounds, it's actually pretty good. I think I can still do better, though. Ugh, yuck. Did the Soldier stack even get any new cards? I'm going to guess it didn't really. I guess it got Seachrome Coast. That's a new card. Yeah. This doesn't seem all that promising of a start. Well, maybe if they don't have any removal spells, the Halana and Alena will brickwall them. do have this thing now, which is kind of obnoxious. I think we can move on. All right, this is the matchup which I wanted all this cheap removal for. So I think I want all my cut downs. Might go for the throats. Maybe I won't have a braid. Let's see how much of this stuff I can fit in. Let's get rid of most of the expensive cards. And some of these hot springs. I think I'm just going to play one hot springs. Oh no, I should have played this land. I'm going to take a damage that I didn't need to take. Mistakes were made. Dennis? Playing with Dennis? All right. I think I want to just spend my mana, all my mana this turn and play the Halana and Alena. Maybe I'll draw a 3-drop next turn. Spoiler, I did not. If they had blocked there, the counters would have gone on to the Halana and Alena, which is why I was willing to make that attack. Wow, they really cannot beat the Halana and Alena. That's kind of cool. Is it possible I want Tyvar's Last Stand? I don't think so. Maybe over this Hot Springs on the draw. I could also just have another braid. That might be better. That is a mulligan. This is a much better hand. Guess I'm probably done with the Proving Ground. Okay. Is this mandatory? Yes. So if for some reason I had cards in my graveyard I didn't want to exile, I would be forced to. I want to kill one of those recruitment officers so I can attack. The other issue with killing it is that it makes my guy a 4/4 if I proliferate, and then they can just destroy Evil It, which just seems like they've got to have a card like that in their hand. I guess they could also have that. That makes sense. That's a lot of damage. Dennis. I think I live here. I don't live comfortably, but I do think I live. That's a problem. Look like that, go to 1. I don't really have a lot of hope for how I'm going to win this game. Maybe I shouldn't have taken the Lukka out of my deck. Yep, okay. Defeated. Few too many lands, but I do have 2-drop into 3-drop. So hopefully it comes together. Even with hands like this, I still just always played Ziatora's Proving Ground. Because the idea that you're going to profit by cycling this thing on turn 5, I think is just kind of ridiculous. You were supposed to be in my opening hand. I think I'm going to lead on. I'm just going to play the Evolving Adaptive anyway over the Cankerbloom. This will hit for 2 because I'm going to play the Bloated Contaminator next turn anyway. And the turn after that I can play the Cankerbloom. Or this could happen where if they don't have a removal spell this turn, my board is going to be gigantic. Like if they just play Fable of the Mirror Breaker. They're going to have a very hard time coming back from this, I would say. It's nice to have a 7/7 Trampler in play on turn 4. It's already attacked once. I guess I only got to attack for 6 with it the first time. But I'm liking my chances. Pitched Invoke Despair. Nice. So I might want Duress in this matchup. Cankerbloom probably doesn't really do very much. Maybe this is the matchup I want the Averbrook Caretakers for. It's kind of weak against Invoke Despair, but I think it's pretty good otherwise. Should I trim a Lukka or a Vraska? I think I'm going to trim Lukka. I don't think I want all these drawn in Ichors. I think I might want another Duress. I've made my deck so I'm not very good at killing Sheoldred now. I think I might just live with that though. Or let's play one to go for the throat. I don't really know which of these is going to be better. One thing I didn't say in the when I was going over the deck initially is that it's probably not really defensible to just play Invigorating Hot Springs over Fable of the Mirror Breaker. But I wanted to try doing that just because if you don't ever try stuff like that, you never find the things that are actually justifiable for, you know, when you can move on from playing Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And maybe the answer is that there's no reason ever not to play Fable of the Mirror Breaker, which is probably true. But the only way I'm ever gonna find out that there are other things to be doing is by trying them. So far, this has felt reasonably powerful, although I don't know that I really need the hot springs. I did when I constructed my deck. I figured that would be a card I would board out a lot once I got to the point where I was playing more interactive games. I don't think I want to use my Go for the Throat on the Blood Tithe Harvester. If they want to Blood Tithe Harvest the Quirion Beastcaller, that's fine. And it's a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Just imagine if I had Invigorating Hot Springs here. How good would that be? The answer is really, it wouldn't be that good. I hope I draw a removal spell next turn to kill this Blood Tithe Harvester. Or maybe they'll just panic and kill Halana and Alena. I'm definitely concerned that they could easily have Invoke Despair in their hand as their last card, and it's going to make this Caretaker look very silly. But let's see what happens. I guess they also need a land, although with all these, they're going to have so many blood tokens that they'll be able to find a land easily enough. So I need to get it tonight so that all my stuff can be hexproof so that they don't just Blood Tithe Harvester at all. Or they could have that, okay. It's not looking that strong for the Averbrook Caretaker. Yeah, that's probably... The printing of Sheoldred's Edict probably ends any dream I might have of the Averbrook Caretaker being a playable card. Between Invoke Despair and Sheoldred's Edict and Liliana of the Veil trying to keep a hexproof guy alive against a black deck. It's probably pretty hard. Would I have done better if it was just Lukka and Arlinn? I would have. So we're going to take those caretakers out of the sideboard, definitely. Potentially a little slow, but also potentially not. I draw a 2-drop. Might get to see Vraska in play finally. Maybe it's just a mistake to be taking any copies of Vraska out of my deck in this matchup. Am I getting cut down? My plan of drawing something to do on turn 3 or turn 2 did not work. my guy grew out of cut down range. They are going to cut down the Halana and Alena probably now. We'll see. Yikes. It's a new treasure art. Having all of these different treasure arts only serves to confuse me. I don't really enjoy it. I was concerned that they might just be slow rolling a Blood Tithe Harvester. If I play the Evolving Adaptive, it's just going to die right away. Also, there's the possibility that my Vraska just gets on tap with it, and if I do, that's a really big deal. I did not get on tap with it. I think I want to play one of these Proving Grounds, so next turn I can go cycle and potentially play a 3-drop. Although my 6th mana really doesn't do anything now that I took the Caretakers out of my deck and I've already drawn 2 copies of Vraska, so maybe I should just hold them. Come on, Bloated Caretaker or Migloz. You're not Migloz. Come on, Migloz. Oh, that's pretty nice. Probably be getting back a Vraska with that. Okay. Concerned that they haven't found an Invoke Despair yet. Maybe they took some of them out of their deck, though. Just they do have a ton of removal in their deck, so they had to board something out. It wasn't Invoke Despair. Not that it should have been. Oh, they get my hot springs too? Rough. Real rough. think I need to take Vraska. Okay, that's not good for me. There's probably nothing I can draw at this point. Yep. All right, so 1 and 2 with a bit of a brew. It got to do its thing a few of the games and looked kind of bad in some of the other games. I think I needed to have Tyvar stand in my deck that last match. So what can we do to make this deck a little better? I think I needed to have in my sideboard some form of sweeper that would work against the soldiers deck. So it's probably going to be an instant or a sorcery. It might just be Brotherhood's End, but I wonder if there's something better. What does this do? This is only -2/-2, which in a way is better because it doesn't kill my Armored Scrapgorgers. Or my Halana and Alena. The issue is it's double black. And then the ability to kick it's nice, but I don't think that's going to come up all that often. I think this is just worse than Choking Miasma. I think this is probably just worse than Choking Miasma. What's this card? That doesn't do anything. All right, I'm not going to be looking to spend more than 3 mana. It's Brotherhood's End. Is End the Festivities no longer legal? There's Vampire's Vengeance. That's probably better than Choking Miasma. Just because it's easier to cast and it's an instant and you get a blood. I don't really care about the non-vampire part. I'm not going to be playing it against people who have vampires, I don't think. And you lose the kicker ability, but the kicker ability was too expensive. I think this is the one I wanted. All right, so I think that's an improvement to the sideboard. And I wanted a hearse or two. So far I haven't felt like there was anything wrong with the main deck. How many lands? I've been playing 25. It seems like probably the right amount. Given that I'm trying to play 4 and 5 mana cards. And I do have cycling lands and 3 of the channel lands. I don't think I was really losing because I was getting flooded. All right, what are we taking out of the sideboard? And why can't I see all the cards in the sideboard? I think I should be taking out, at least in a braid. I'm definitely taking out the caretakers. Those were kind of embarrassing. Maybe it go for the throat as well. All right, let's do one last match. I like this hand. I like it a lot. Up against a Jungle Hollow gamer. They're also on the Jundliferate life. So maybe we'll learn some new things that I should have in my deck. I like this Glissa card. Seems pretty good to me. I don't know that there's a particular deck or matchup where it's going to shine, but it does seem like a pretty reasonable card. So I could just play Lukka and -4 to kill Glissa. Or I could wait a turn or two to see if I get a better opportunity. I think I might just go Beastcaller and then Hot Spring's the biggest Beastcaller. This way I can Hot Springs again next turn to get my guy up to 6, and then they would kill the Glissa and something else I deem necessary to kill. Taking a little bit of damage, but I'm playing to have a good board if my Beastcaller lives. Oh, they can destroy my artifact or enchantment. I wasn't thinking about that. Maybe that was a mistake. Oh no, the Obliterator. How am I going to beat that? I don't really have much that is good at all against the Obliterator. I was sort of assuming that nobody would actually play this card, because I don't think it's very good. I guess it's a little better than Sheoldred in this spot, because I would have killed Sheoldred with Lukka, but I think just overall it's not going to be a better card than Sheoldred. I could also just draw Vraska next turn, and it's going to make that thing look pretty silly. Definitely not in good shape. And I'm dead. So against this deck, I won't go for the Throat because it's a card that kills Phyrexian Obliterator. I'm going to try Tyvar's Stand as well. I think I don't want these Hot Springs. I'll play a Cut Down. They had a couple of targets that it hit. Is Cankerbloom good? Not really. I don't know that I have anything I want over it. On the play, nothing before turn 4. I think that's a mulligan. What if I should just have that Glissa in my sideboard? Maybe there are matchups where it's a good card. They're a Scrapgorger gamer as well. How good would it have been if I'd drawn an Evolving Adaptive that turn, so I could have gone this land, Evolving Adaptive, get a counter on that, and then go for the Throat? Would have been insane. Oh, whoops. I thought that was a Scrapgorger. Alright, missed 3 damage. Is the art the same? They look differently enough. I should have been able to note that difference. This Quirion Beastcaller is a pretty good card. I'm a fan. Please don't play an Obliterator. They need another black land before they can play an Obliterator. They have another black land. Guess I'll exile something from the graveyard on the way out. Is it possible I should pitch the Beastcaller over the Scrapgorger? If I drew Vraska next turn, I would definitely be happy if that was what I decided to do. So that is what I'm going to do. Cost me 2 damage. So actually, if I had not messed up with that go for the Throat, they would have died that last turn, because they gained 3 life because I screwed up with the go for the Throat. And then I did 2 less damage by keeping the Scrapgorger over the Beastcaller. People are excited about this Jubilant Brawler card. I'm not sure that there's enough stuff in Standard to make it actually good. Like, it's really good with Blood Tithe Harvester. I don't think that untapping your 2-mana mana guys is a particularly powerful ability. So they can turn their land into a chump blocker now. That isn't what they decided to do. Does this target on or does it choose on resolution? It chooses on resolution, so I have to Scrapgorger in response, which means if they actually mill something, then they would still get a creature from it. think this card's going to have a lot more impact in Explorer and or Historic or Pioneer or Modern. Even then, I'm not that excited about it. I think it probably will be useful in those decks at least. Are we getting bushwhacked? Yeah, that's not going to work out the way you want it to, opponent. My guy's all oiled up now. I guess they could have -2'd and just hoped to hit. I understand what their deck is now, though. They're a Bushwhack Obliterator deck. That's why they've constructed their deck in this way. And that's also why they have Jungle Hollow in their deck, I guess, is to make the mana work if you want to play green 2-drops in your Obliterator deck. Okay. I'm gonna take this thing out and we're gonna extra grease up the Obliterator. Oh wait, this guy only gets a counter. If there's a card for it to exile. I didn't realize that was how that worked. I thought I was going to always get the counters. They're just denying me my counters now. Interesting. That definitely makes this card a little bit worse than I thought. That you can't actually start it charging up until some things go to the graveyard. That's a big difference. I think I'm going to wait a turn before I doubled around an Ichor the Obliterator. By waiting, I'm going to have counters on both my Scrapgorgers, so I can double proliferate. Like I'm getting 2 extra counters out of waiting. And I'm also getting the possibility that I might not need to double drown. If I drew a Vraska or a Go for the Throat. I guess I'm risking that they could, if they drew a Bushwhack in the meantime, it'd be pretty bad for me. I want to go after the one that... How can I tell what's happening? Which Which effect is... I want to prevent this one from growing. How can I tell? Imagine if there was a way to actually tell what was going on in the game. I'm just going to guess. I think I got it right. I think I guessed right. All right. Excellent. Not excellent that they're hitting me with the Sword of the Final Frontier. Could use Cankerbloom or Migloz this game for sure. I don't think I boarded in my Abrades. The Sword of the Final Frontier is a pretty nice sideboard card against my red-green deck. Ooh, they have Vraska in their deck too. Nice. It seems like they're kind of playing in a way where it wouldn't be that hard for me to kill them. If I drew a creature off the top of my deck. Maybe they're not about to tap out. Okay. Take that back. It's going to be pretty hard to kill them. It was a good draw, at least. I don't think it's going to be enough. Can't block first because of protection from green, so I gotta just destroy the sword. Take 3. What can I draw that would get me out of this? I don't know that there even is anything. What's my best draw? Something that kills these things? Like, I'll play this, but it's just gonna die to Vraska. And I'm dead. Well, I hope you enjoyed the deck idea. Didn't perform particularly well. That Bloated Contaminator card seemed good, for sure. And Scrapgorger and the, whatever the evolution one is called. Those all seemed good. I think that the Invigorating Hot Spring probably a little bit too fancy. I don't know about all this 5-mana stuff. Or the Drowning Ichor either. It was pretty awkward. I think I would have won that last game if it had just been if they'd just been like Go for the Throat or Infernal Grasp. I almost definitely would have won. I would say going forward, I would probably cut the Hot Springs and change the Ichors into better removal. And then this, like, you could just make this Fable of the Mirror Breaker and the deck would be better, obviously. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll be back again with another new deck.